Let's turn in our Bibles to Philippians chapter 4, verse 1. Dear brothers and sisters, I love you and long to see you, for you are my joy and the reward for my work. So please stay true to the Lord, my dear friends. And now I want to plead with those two women, Euodia and Syntyche. Please, because you belong to the Lord, settle your disagreement. And I ask you, my true teammate, to help these women, for they worked hard with me in telling others the good news. And they worked with Clement and the rest of my co workers, whose names are written in the book of life. Always be full of joy in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. Let everyone see that you are considerate in all you do. Remember, the Lord is coming soon. When we look at different writings that Paul penned, I truly believe that he thought that Jesus was going to be coming back in his lifetime. And we're, nearly 2,000 years later? So because it's been so long, I hear a lot of people going, oh, yeah, maybe Jesus won't be coming back just yet. Maybe he'll be a bit later. Maybe he won't be. But if I'm being honest, I truly believe that these words that Paul said of the Lord is coming soon is more true today than it has ever been. I truly believe that it is going to be in our lifetime that we see Jesus returning for his bride. One of the reasons why I think this is when we look at the different prophecies in Revelation. So the full title, I believe, is The Revelation of Jesus Christ, which is why it doesn't have an S at the end. The reason why I believe that Jesus is coming back in our lifetime is because every prophecy that is in there, the technology that is needed for these prophecies to be fulfilled are actually in place. We've actually hit a day and age that maybe we don't know the version of it. Maybe there'll be more iterations and improvements to the technology, but there is a version of technology in place right now for every single one of these prophecies to be fulfilled. One such example, and this is only a minor example, is if we turn to Revelation chapter 11. This is the chapter that talks about the two witnesses. So these are men of God who are going to be in Jerusalem, and they are just going to be proclaiming that Jesus is God. In Revelation chapter 11, that's when the beast actually kills the two witnesses. So let's have a read of what happens when they're killed. And this is starting at verse 9. And for 3.5 days, all peoples, tribes, languages, and nations will come and stare at their bodies. No one will be allowed to bury them. All the people who belong to this world will give presents to each other to celebrate the death of the two prophets who had tormented them. So if we have a look at that, if this passage is to be taken literally, within a 3.5 day period, the entire world, all the people of earth, are going to know that the two witnesses who are in Jerusalem have been killed and that their bodies are laying dead in the street. So if we go back in not that too far in history, when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, we use the phrase that everybody watched Neil Armstrong land on the moon. But if we're being honest, that was a figurative statement, not a literal statement, because there would be people in tribes all around the world, little secluded tribes, where they did not have the TV, they did not have access to internet. Internet didn't exist then. So they did not watch when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon. But as of today, in August 23, when I did a quick Google search, it says 85% of the world's population has a smartphone. So anybody who has a smartphone, which is probably everybody who is going to ever watch this, based on the statistics of, 85% of the world, we know that by having a smartphone, we have access to live TV, we have access to news, internet, like we can get information instantly. And as of right now, if something happens, it's 85.95% of the world's population can actually pull out their phone and watch it in real time. So that's where I say this passage is a literal, that all the people of the earth are going to be giving gifts to each other within a 3.5 day period. That's just one example of how we have the technology in place right now for that to take place. So if we look at this passage in Philippians, where Paul is turning around and saying that the Lord is coming soon, that follows on after he references these two women. Now I'm going to say their names wrong, so I apologize. But Euodia and Syntyche, he references that these two women are in conflict. Now, just picture this. Paul is in Rome. These women are part of the church in Philippi. Their conflict was so great that even Paul knew about it. In a day and age where there wasn't internet, so for messages to go back and forth, somebody had to travel that distance and relay the information. It wasn't phone calls, somebody physically had to walk that. So that is how great their conflict was, that the news traveled to Paul. And I think that is a warning for us today of going, let's be careful with our disputing with each other, because Jesus is coming back soon. Jesus is coming for his bride. And it doesn't say in this passage if one woman was right or one woman was wrong. We don't know. Paul doesn't take sides. He just asks them to resolve it. Potentially, he's asking them just to agree to disagree and just find a way to have some form of peace between them. And I think this is the same thing for us today. If we're the bride of Christ, Jesus is coming back soon. He is coming for his bride. And that is the most important message for us to get out there. So let's try and stop bickering and fighting and using all our energy against each other, but instead try and get that message out that Jesus is coming back again. And you have the choice whether you want to be part of the bride of Christ or not.